Let us now discuss the remaining part of the topic, Tennyson as the representative poet of the Victorian age. Tennyson's poetry is also full of didactic spirit. The Victorian author and poet played the role of a moral teacher. Generally speaking, the Victorians had a keen fascination for moralizing and preaching. Tennyson understood people's expectations, and thus he played to admiration the role of poet-philosopher. In one of his earlier poems called The Poet, he tells of the mission of the poet. In his own words, the poet in a golden clime was born, with golden stars above, dowered with the hate of hate, the scorn of scorn, the love of love. Unquote. According to Tennyson, the poet's function was not to delight only, but to teach the masses. The statesmen, men, and even the intellectuals were also going to be benefited by poetry. This was his belief. In hours of perplexity, statesmen turned to him for light and wisdom. He taught people to be moderate, patient, and tolerant. His message of action appears in his poem Ulysses. In that poem, he says, "Strive to seek, to find, and not to yield." And he prescribed the hearth as the woman's sphere par excellence. Let her beware of harboring aspirations, intellectual or social, that might draw her away from that magic ring, lest she should become a social nuisance. As he says, man for the field and woman for the hearth, man for the sword and for the needle she, man with the head and woman with the heart, man to command and woman to obey, all else confusion. Tennyson improved his laureate's prestige to glorify national self-righteousness and invested jingoism with the sanctity of a cardinal Christian virtue, and he did this all the more insidiously for professing to exact internationalism. The Victorians also believed in conjugal love rather than romantic. Tennyson supported this view most devotedly. He could not allow passion in love. Any relation between man and woman other than the married one was not sanctioned by him. As far as illicit love is concerned, Tennyson had the greatest abhorrence of it. In his poem, The Idylls of the King, he considers the guilty love of Launcelot and Guinevere responsible for the death of Arthur. According to Nicholson, it is curious, for instance, to observe how constantly in his abhorrence of the illicit love he throws a domestic atmosphere even over the pre-conjugal relations of his characters. Thus, in matters of love and marriage, Tennyson had typical Victorian views. But the most important feature of his poetry, and that of the Victorian poetry for that matter, is patriotism. The Victorians were intensely patriotic. They took pride in their queen and national glories. Tennyson shared these feelings of his countrymen. In his poetry, the sense of national pride and glory is well sounded. He represents English life and manners with utmost sincerity. Tennyson reflects the ideals of widely different types of English life in his poem English Idyls. Speaking of England, Tennyson says, It is the land that free men till, then sober-suited freedom choose, the land where a man may speak the thing he will, a land of settled government, a land of just and old renown. Tennyson's patriotism is narrow and insular, however. His praise for his own country is the expression of a Victorian patriot who considered his country superior to all other countries of the world. He says, "There is no land like England. Wherever the light of day be, there are no hearts like English heart, such hearts of oak as they be." In this way, we can say that Tennyson presented in his poetry all the essential features of Victorian life, the ideas and taste, the inherited predilections belonging to his class and generation, moderation in politics, refined culture, religious liberalism checkered by doubt, a lively interest in the advance of scientific discovery coupled with alarm lest it should lead us astray, attachments to ancient institutions, larger views of duty of state towards its people, and increasing sympathy with poverty and distress. Thank you.